Okay,
All set.
welcome to the April 17th meeting of the Lyman Planning Board. This meeting will now come to order. This is a public proceeding, and unless the board specifically goes into executive session, you'll have the right to hear everything that is being said and to look at all exhibits that are offered. If the board goes into executive session, the reason for doing so shall be stated. Please notify the chair if you are having difficulty seeing or hearing. This meeting is being recorded for YouTube. In each instance, the burden is upon the applicant to demonstrate compliance with the provisions of the applicable ordinance or ordinances. After the board votes on the merits of each project, it will prepare a written opinion, which will be forwarded within 7 days, normally when there is sufficient staffing in the code enforcement office. I thank all recent applicants for their patience. The board works from a prepared agenda and will be considering this meeting's items in the following order. After roll call, Mark Lapointe, 212 Wadley Pond, to rebuild and add a deck to the house in the shoreline zone. Jim Thing on Clarkswoods Road, to discuss adding apartments over the garage. Does that initiate the subdivision? Rodney and Jennifer Tardif, to review the notice of decision on their roadway. Richard and Judith Hewitt at 75 Barker's Pond Road, to review the notice of decision on their tear down and re-establishment of a seasonal camp at that location. The YMCA summer camp at 39 Muscatella Road, to review the notice of decision on that. To set our agenda for the next meeting, which will be on May 1st of this year. Review minutes and address old business and new business. Could you please join with me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. May please conduct a roll call, starting with you, Bill.
Bill Single, 8 Single Lane, Lyman.
Joe Wagner, 26 Day Road.
Cecile Dupuy, 53 Chapel Shores Road.
Kevin Bear, 64 Buckingham Pond Road.
Don Hernan, 33 Murphy's Way.
All right. Mr. Lapointe?
I haven't seen him.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
since Kelly's not here, we need to
Yes, we do. My apologies. Thank you. Motion to,
make a motion to have Bill be a full voting member.
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Jeff. All right. Just set this over here out of the way. Mr. Thing, let's see.
He worked up until about 5 o'clock, stopped in, said his wife was probably not going to let him leave once he got home because she was going to start the grill.
Okay.
Um,
Well then, let's address the Tardifs notice of decision. One thing that was noted was the criteria for granting the waiver on composition of the roadway. We did not go over that, so that is something that we should do. And that is right here. Yes. Here we go. And that's in section 3.1 of our street acceptance ordinance. And without objection, we can go through each of those criteria and make sure that we will include that in the notice of decision. All right. The proposed 311. The proposed waiver or amendment is not necessitated by the actions of the applicant or prior owners or due to violations of applicable Town of Lyman ordinances. Chair will entertain a motion that the applicant does meet.
That that one's a little tough, only in that.
Mhm.
I mean, the reason we're looking for a waiver is because you use the wrong material. I mean, I say the wrong material. For that particular application, the way the thing is written, it appears that it's a funny situation. First time we've had something like this come before us, as far as that I remember, for a road. And just for the record, the information we have is that we know that this proposed road, which is actually already constructed, connects to a private way, I think, if I've got that right, which connects to a town road. And what you've constructed is so much better than the private way. It's not kidding anybody. So it doesn't make a lot of sense to me, for the planning board to say to you, to the applicants, rip that up and put down a different type of base material. So,
Don, I think I get what you're getting to. So it's technically not a violation if they haven't been notified that it's a violation and adjudicated that they did the wrong thing. Correct?
Sounds along that line.
So it really doesn't apply.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, and again, this normally is handled by staff review committee. We don't have a staff review committee. So we're ended up doing this, which that's not an excuse. It's just that it's something that we haven't handled in the past. So it's not as clear as it might be. But I think your wording
So I
is
would
good.
make a motion that they comply with 311.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The proposed waiver or amendment will not compromise public health, safety, or welfare.
I think safety is enhanced because of condition of the
It's
road.
better than it
Yeah,
was.
right.
Yes, indeed. Sufficient room for turnaround of emergency vehicles. And again, the town road commissioner did approve the composition of the roadway. So, a motion?
Make a motion that the applicant meets the requirements of 3.1.2.
Second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The proposed waiver or amendment will not adversely impact surface or groundwater quality, slope stability, or environmental quality. Once again, Tom Carter, I think, did make mention of the sufficient drainage there. So,
Didn't you all put a culvert in there too, as I remember?
Three culverts.
Three culverts. Yeah, you sort of overkilled that.
Yeah.
I mean, not overkilled, but
So
shouldn't
it's
have.
on the downslope of that hill, so we want to make sure water comes in, grabs it, and keeps on moving.
Right. No, I think you did it. Looks good.
Chair will entertain a motion.
I make a motion that they comply with 3.1.3.
Second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The proposed waiver or amendment will not generate on or off-site traffic impediments or hazards, nor endanger the free access or safety of emergency responders and emergency response apparatus and equipment. Again,
No, I think this actually is, it's got a turnaround in there, which is a planned turnaround for emergency equipment. Comes off of an existing private way. And it serves, it's going to serve two houses, as I remember. So I don't think there's any issue here with traffic, access for safety equipment, and emergency response apparatus. So I'll make a motion that the applicant meets the requirements of 3.1.4.
do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
And finally, the proposed waiver or amendment will not effectively nullify the intent and purpose of this ordinance, the land use ordinance, the Lyman subdivision regulations, the Lyman comprehensive plan, or state law.
And you haven't shot anybody either, so. I mean, this covers the waterfront. I don't know, that's what's in the ordinance. I mean, it's sort of a catch-all, but from what I've observed during the site walk and also the information that the applicants provided, this this actually, I think this certainly improves the area in that sense, and is very adequate for the application that it's being used for, which is to serve 2 homes. One of which I think is not existing, but it may exist sometime soon. You hope.
We have a motion?
I'll make a motion that the applicant complies with requirement 3.115.
Second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Right.
Okay. So what I would suggest is that we include this into the notice of decision.
Yeah.
The only other thing that I can recollect that we need to add to the notice of decision was the date of the survey and who prepared it. And we'll, Ricardo's here with that information. We'll plug that in and have the final notice of decision ready
Hopefully.
afterwards. Oh, yeah.
And the plans have not be signed.
Signature box.
It's all lines.
So I suggest that we do the signing at the close of the meeting
Okay,
with all the other paperwork such as the minutes.
okay.
So I think we're all set.
Do we sign that before the NOD is signed, or does it matter?
To me, I recall usually
Seems to me we
we
usually
we
sign
sign
that
these
at
before.
a subsequent meeting usually.
I don't think the sequence is all that critical.
Okay,
Usually it's, as I recall, we'll sign the map first, the site plan, and then the nod.
okay.
So you just leave those with Julie. We'll sign those
Thank you.
afterwards. We'll have the notice of decision ready afterwards with that information in there. Anything further from the board?
No,
I hope not.
Finally,
Once that's all signed and everything's,
Mhm.
I know we have to bring it to the registry of deeds.
yes.
Or,
Right.
I know you had said something about,
Well, actually, this one here, this ordinance, I don't know why, but it says it's, oh yeah, here it is, looks like it's right open. I think this one requires. Let's see, where does it say?
it's something we get up, bring to the registry.
Recording of
deeds.
plan, it says.
Mhm.
It says here, an approved and signed private way plan shall be recorded by the applicant in the York County Registry of Deeds within 60 days of the signing of the plan. And then it says, failure to register the plan within the 60 days will void the staff review committee's approval. The only reason the zoning ordinance, the town ends up doing, it's the same thing. Basically, you go out to the York County Registry of Deeds and they accept the, well, you gotta have a check. Julie, I think, can tell you how much it's for. It might be more for them because they're not, well, I don't know whether, you gotta look at that a little bit.
I don't know, because it's the plans, they're
Mhm.
big. I don't know
Does it go by that?
what, if that makes a difference.
I think you're gonna have to call them and ask them.
Figure it out.
Usually it used to be like $40 or something. They have something.
Yeah, it's not an
I
excessive
don't know.
amount.
Everything's gone up, it
That's
might be
what
more than
the,
that.
just need to know what steps I can.
But then the
It cost me
NOD,
400,
The
it cost me 400.
non-feature.
yeah, we should take that, I guess. I guess we should take, the NOD is not even mentioned in here. But I think we should follow the same process for the NOD, which means the town would write the check, and I don't know if you get billed for that or not, but
It's
part of the
out of
application.
the application. fee.
Yeah, and then we would take care of that. So the only thing is you gotta get, and that, this is for, and you'll get a copy, you should get the original here, probably take several weeks' time to get the check and goes out, comes back. But you should keep that in your file, and then presumably you'll have a copy of the recorded plan, or at least know where it's recorded, so that's part of your file too, in case it's ever, God forbid, comes up again for your records, so.
So we keep a copy in your property file here.
So you'll let us know when we have the signed copy, so I can bring it
Mhm.
to the Register of Deeds and get that done. Okay.
Should be, we'll sign it again later this evening, so tomorrow morning.
Afternoon.
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 You know how to reach me.
I know how to reach you.
Just let me know, and you're here till what time tomorrow?
4.
Yeah, thanks for your patience on this. This
Thank
is
you.
something a little bit unusual for us.
Well, thank you.
But we wanna do the right
This is
thing.
why I tried starting it last August.
Yeah.
We appreciate your patience.
It's a
really do.
time-consuming thing, this, the whole process.
Takes time.
So,
But we're there, we're almost there.
Hope so.
Awesome.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Yes, good
Have a
luck.
great night.
Thanks a lot.
You too.
Good project.
We'll back up a little bit again, just to the point. Okay, and so Mr. Thing will be, place both of those gentlemen on the next agenda. The notice of decision for the Hewitts. And this is the tear down, rebuild on the same footprint for seasonal home domicile at the 75 Marcus Pond Road. Was there any
Anything else in this?
additional information to place in here? Anything to adjust? So I think we said the yeah, that's
Standards.
now on the side, we move to the front, but the distance from the board still remain.
No, I think it's fine. I
Because
think it's good.
moving back and farther might interfere with the septic system that we have. So,
Nope, I think it's good.
good to go? Good. The John Hancock on this.
All right.
Okay. And then take this and put this one over here for doing. Next, the YMCA summer camp at 39 Muscatella. And we cover all the conditions there in the notice of decision.
I think it looks great.
Over there. There's one thing that I caught with respect to, was looking at signage. And 10-14-1.
The signage was just to let people know there was traffic going in and out, right?
Right, and one thing that we suggested was a sandwich board. And 10-14-1L, a sandwich board or A-frame or trailer mounted signs are allowed for 30 days permit from the code enforcement officer. But if you go to 10-14-3, no, 10-14-2G, signs for traffic control are exempt from that. So I'm sorry to bring something up that really isn't applicable, but it just caught my eye that we have something with respect to sandwich boards, but this is for the traffic control, so it would not be applicable.
So-
They
so-
would not need
They don't
an
need
approval
it?
from a code enforcement officer.
Oh, okay.
So we should be fine, just the way it was. Yeah, good,
Just to-
good.
maybe caught that.
Yep.
Good. Are you okay on that one?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, it's over here as well. Okay, next on the agenda is setting the agenda for next meeting. And walk through a couple of old business, maybe a couple of new business things. So Mr. Lapointe and Mr. Thing for the next meeting on.
Mr. Point, yes, Mr. Thing, we're gonna try to hook him up with one of the CEOs that are helping us.
Okay.
Regarding, because it's regarding ADUs and,
Right.
so I'm gonna try to see if we can get him to connect with one of the helping people there so that, because they'll know
Yeah, don't mean to
better
complicate
than me.
things, but the, maybe pointing out to you, Mr. Thing, that as 10.6 is right now, there's a 600 square foot limitation. The LCO is proposing expanding that to 800, but if that goes into effect, that will not go into effect unless the select board would adopt that as emergency measure until it can be voted on in November.
Yeah.
Questions of whether or not subdivision would be necessary. I think looking at Article 2 of our subdivision that defines what subdivision is might be something to bring to Mr. Thing's attention as well. Because there's one paragraph in there that goes, the term subdivision also includes the division of a new structure or structures on a tract or parcel of land into 3 or more dwelling units within a 5-year period. I don't know if that would be particularly applicable to what he has in mind, but it could be brought to his attention, I think. As well.
Do we have any information about acreage or anything? Does he?
It's a big law.
It's a big lot.
It's a very big law.
Yep.
Is this a new one, a new construction, or is this an existing?
There's a mobile home on it
Oh,
already,
Mhm.
and he just built a big garage, and it's gonna be 2 apartments above the garage.
But yeah, that's more than 5 acres.
Yeah, oh, it's way more than 5
Yeah,
acres.
so,
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's a lot of
but it would
acres.
be like a cluster or something. right?
Well, Kevin just mentioned that it might be considered a multi-family dwelling.
Right,
So,
which is not, which zone is that, general purpose?
It's on Clarkswood Road.
it's on a gravel pit.
Okay, so
It's in a
not general
gravel
purpose. So I think it's allowed. And talking, yeah.
Okay. All right. So that's good. We're
it's
sure,
complicated.
Mr. Things plans to, one of the 2 interim CEOs. And since I mentioned that, in recent select board meetings, Jim Roberts, Dayton, and I think it's Jim Allaire of Alfred, both been appointed interim code enforcement officers.
Both of them, okay.
Oh, so what are they gonna do, alternate? I mean,
Well, I asked Julie that, and that it's like an on-call kind of basis.
We send them for inspections and send stuff to them, or they pick it up to look at it. But obviously with the work in their own towns, it's kind of hard for them to sit here.
well, it might help out permits and things,
Well,
for sure.
we're actually,
Catching up?
I expressed extreme frustration and overwhelmedness last week. It got to the point where I couldn't,
Can't get anything
I was-
done.
I was gonna be done. And more help became available pretty much immediately
Okay.
within the building, and people are really,
Well, this is short term. The only thing that's gonna hurt us is the long-term aspects of not having a CEO. I mean, in the sense of continuity and things of that nature, I think. Plus, each town's got its own set of ordinances, so presumably theirs are different than ours, and it's not,
they're getting copies of our ordinances
yeah.
so that, so that they can match up what they're looking at. We're doing the best we can.
No, I think it's probably the only thing available right now.
And
That's too bad.
there's only so many ways I could say, I'm sorry, I can't help you, I don't have the certifications, nor do I want them.
Right.
Yeah,
Julie, we appreciate all
I know.
your patience and
Yesterday,
efforts into this.
yesterday was a very, very, very rough day here. Thank God for Becca. She did a lot of fielding of calls and people with me yesterday, but it was a crazy day yesterday.
Yes, it was.
Eileen witnessed it.
So that's why your office has a door with a
Yes.
lock.
Well, Monday was a holiday, so
Yeah.
Yes.
it's for some people, and Friday I was out sick, which there was a lot of phone calls, a lot of messages, and I believe every phone call deserves somebody to call them back, and that has
That's true.
been what I've
That's
been
good.
doing, and I have staff. I showed Joe last week, it's a huge stack, and I have a nice little stack that since Thursday that I have been plugging away at. But every person deserves to be called back, no matter how little or how long it takes me. And it's that I can only do what I can do, but yesterday was a rough day.
Sorry about
Again, we
that.
appreciate all your effort and appreciate Rebecca pitching in too.
I do too, gosh, I do.
Well, back
Back
to the
to,
agenda.
back
for
to the agenda, sorry.
The point, we all have a copy of another application that came in with respect to the conversion of the use of the church. And that'll be on the agenda for next time. That's Mr. Jakes, I believe.
Joyce,
Joyce? I'm
Steve
sorry.
Joyce.
Okay, I was looking at the property owner.
Yeah. So what are the, can you give us a brief what they want to do?
They are going to, what they told me was they were going to reopen the church as a church. And she is going to do yoga. She's a yoga teacher. She wants to do yoga in the building. And they just want to make it a functioning building again. You won't have to go far for a sidewalk.
That's true.
It's right there. You can do it before
That's
me.
right.
That's true.
I got the application, your butter address labels.
Okay, excellent. And anything else to place on the agenda for May 1st meeting? Well,
Questions about subdivision from the realtor?
yeah, let's, yeah, address that before we, okay. That came in from let's see, Jeremy France. Represents, I believe, Keller Williams. And he had 3 questions. Is more than one back lot allowed off of one driveway that is shared? And I believe pages 20, 21 of the ordinance 633 addresses driveways. Does everyone see that the same way? Refer that section of the ordinance to Mr. France? Well, new back lots. They have to meet the dimensional requirements of Article 6. There's a little bit of a distinction in terms of a circle that's required for emergency vehicles between residential and general purpose. The back lots must have access to a publicly accepted road or private way leading to a publicly accepted road. All dead-end traveled ways must have a hammerhead. And maintenance of the easement associated with backlots shall be the responsibility of persons requiring the use of the easement for access. So does that section of the ordinance seem to address Mr. Francis' question?
The only thing I like to point out is that in view of the last discussion about a private way,
Mhm.
if they do construct something, it's gonna have to meet the street, the ordinance, which
Right.
we don't wanna get in a situation where they build it and then, there's an issue. If they're gotta meet this ordinance requirements, since they apparently haven't touched it, have they?
No, no. As far as I know, this is an undeveloped property.
So So what's his question? Is this thing becoming a subdivision?
Yeah, what is the question again? 'Cause
Well, let's see, is more than one backlot allowed off of one driveway?
I would say no. They need, there's no, a back lot has no road frontage.
Right.
Mhm.
So how could you have two houses with no road frontage on a driveway? That wouldn't make sense. I don't know, I'd have to see a diagram of what the
Yeah,
intent is,
yeah.
because a back lot has to have access to a private way, but you have two houses, I'm not sure how that would work. No, right, right, it has to be a street.
Well, it does say there in 633B4, it says the back lot, for instance, S,
Hmm.
must have access to a public accepted road, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
It sort of implies there could be more than one.
They would have to have separate access though, right?
Well, I don't know.
That's why we need to see the design.
Well,
Yeah.
I think we need to see how he's going to
a
do this.
private easement, right? It must have access to a publicly accepted road or a private way leading to a publicly accepted road.
Right, a private way, right.
You could have 20 places as a back lot, right? Oh, as long as you meet subdivision standards once every 5 years.
One address on that private road would not, then each house would have to have an address on the road.
Right. Would be much different than the tribe situation where they intend to have their two homes, and they need X amount of frontage on that private way.
Right.
So I think that's what's,
I don't know how you can have
So-
more than one back lot with no frontage. But I guess if you have
I'm just thinking
that lot, we need the design.
Peggy Ann Lane, where my shop is.
Mhm.
We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 places on a private road.
That's not a back lot though. It's on a private road,
But it's on a private road.
right? Yeah,
It's not a backlot, that is correct, it's
Yeah.
not,
right.
but it is on a private
It's on a
road.
private road, right.
So
Yeah,
why would
we're
there
all
be
on
a
private.
differential, whether it's a backlot or not, because one of the parcels has no access anywhere except for the private road, there is no access.
but it seems to me maybe a letter to Mr. France addressing this, referring him to 633, mentioning that private way would be maybe a better expression than driveway. And also, as Don mentions, the refer to the street ordinance requirements in terms of the composition of private way in this proposed development.
Well, it does say the private way has to meet our street ordinance standards, so
Yeah.
that kind of puts a kibosh to most everything.
Right.
Yeah.
And every house
It's
is
a high
supposed to
bar.
have 300 feet of road frontage
Mm.
on the road.
I believe the property, it's not something that the sale has gone through completely, so
Okay.
they're just trying to figure out what they
Oh,
can do
okay.
with the property.
I see.
So he wanted to ask some questions, and then he come and ask.
Okay.
He wasn't ready to. I invited him again yesterday, he said no, he wasn't ready,
Okay.
he wasn't at that point yet.
Well, I also maybe add to the communication back to Mr. France, as Seal suggested, once you do have something in mind, some sort of sketch,
Mm.
Yeah.
run that past us.
It doesn't have to be formal. I mean, it is just inquiry at
Yep.
this point.
The other questions that he had was, what is the required driveway width specs?
Street ordinance.
Ties to the first question.
Back to the street.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, oops.
And how does Lyman calculate acreage within developments? Are wetlands removed from the calculation or not? No,
I don't believe
I don't believe
so.
so.
no.
I don't think
And,
so.
This sounds more like a cluster subdivision question.
Yeah.
Yes,
Hope you don't mind, but I referred that question to BJ Fell and asked him what his take on it. I sent him a note saying, got a question from a real estate representative. Are wetlands removed from the calculation of acreage within a development? And Lee J. Feldman responded, unless there is any discussion regarding how to define net residential density, then it would not be deducted from the lot size or density calculation. Which is, I think,
Right.
our sense of it
Yeah.
already.
Yeah.
So.
Sounds like this gentleman wants us to do the research for him.
I think the thing is to refer him to the requisite parts of the ordinance that would apply to these questions.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think they need to come forth and give us a preliminary and stuff like that and do a little work instead of just, you know, I mean, because you don't want to say something that then they say, well, you guys said this, you know, and it's in the minutes that you said this, and now you're telling us we got to do this. And, you know, because the applicant has the right to have a pre-meeting
Yes.
to discuss this stuff, and then they come forth with an application which says, here's what we're proposing, and then you've got something concrete to look at. Because otherwise I mean, you know, I'm not saying they're trying to do anything funny, it's just that it sounds like they've got a few questions, and this gentleman's a real estate agent, he wants to facilitate a sale. So he wants to be able to say, oh yeah, you can do all this stuff.
Yeah.
The problem is, unless you put an application in, you don't know whether you can do all this stuff or not.
Right.
Just not that I would be a wet blanket on anybody, of course.
Without objection, I'll put together a response to these questions and run by everybody who sent to Mr. Prince. That's good. Okay. We could, I don't know if any of these other items will be applicable to add into our next agenda, but had a number of things just kind of tick off in terms of the old business.
Yeah.
Okay. I already mentioned the appointment of the two interim CEOs. Talked with the town manager about the docs PSA being placed on the website, and it was her feeling that that would be redundant. It's already there available.
I'm sorry, which,
Remember we were thinking about saying, just a reminder to folks
yeah,
on the waterways that we do have some language about docks.
oh, she didn't think that was a great idea?
Well, it was, her sentiment as I perceived it is that it's already there
Yeah,
for anyone to refer to, so. that's
okay,
that. Now, you discussed the potential change in the subdivision regulations about the performance guarantee.
Oh, yeah.
And Lindsay got back to me on that, saying that as far as she can tell, that we can change that without going to town vote. So it brings up the research that Kevin, you did in terms of, you know, other municipalities allow for a letter of credit or a bond. And both of those were included in the Southern Maine Regional Planning model subdivision regulations that they put out back in, I think, 2006.
Yeah, they're old.
So how about maybe putting some language together to modify that particular portion of the subdivision regs? Run by the town manager, asking for advice from council as well.
Could I also just comment, I hope somebody is, it's not like a wet blanket, but I hope somebody has talked to the treasurer too.
That was mentioned last time.
Yeah, just, maybe that was, I don't know if that was in the, if,
I did ask to see if that would be any kind of a burden,
yeah,
and I don't recall getting a response specifically back on that,
it's okay.
but yeah, it, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much trouble it is to, of course, I don't know if the town's ever tried to collect on a bond or we haven't had that many subdivisions.
That's right.
So,
Default.
yeah, defaults, I guess that's the correct term. If we've ever had a default where the builder didn't finish the work and then the town had to go in and do something, and that's why you asked for the performance bond in the first place. Bond or check, our first asked for a check.
What difference is a letter of credit versus a bond?
I don't know.
Well, a bond's like an insurance policy.
Yeah,
What's a letter of credit?
An assurance, I would think, an assurance from a financial institution that the amount of money for the infrastructure construction would be made available to the town in the event of the default.
So is that as good as a bond?
Seems like one of the.
I'm just
For
asking a
the
question.
town it would be, I think, but for the applicant, I think it's a financial, a bit of
cash is
financial
king.
risk, right? Because it's, I think he has to show assets, probably, for the against that letter of credit.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right,
Mhm.
as opposed to a bond.
It-
I think it's good to be fair and, you know, and to only have one option that is rather stringent is kind of, in the light of things these days, is a little bit overbearing.
And this has worked. I mean, this is the first time that we've had an issue. And like you said, we didn't have a lot of subdivisions, but we have enough of them.
had a few.
And no one has ever raised this as being an issue.
Yeah, I think the case here was over $500,000 in this particular instance. And I could see that as an issue, a bond maybe versus coming up with the cash.
Right. And we did have a case that came before us where there was a subdivision that had been going on for a few years. Remember that? And I think it was a subdivision that crossed over two towns. And remember, the people didn't even know. The project was never finished. They
You
assumed
were
they
right
were in a
there.
subdivision, but no one was maintaining the fire. They never got the
They
fire.
never put in the cistern.
Right, right. So there's a case where, I mean, that bond or whatever letter of credit probably could have come into play. I don't know if that ever did.
That's probably
Is it-
Yeah,
There's an old saying, out fumble you, you know? If something stretches out long enough, people forget, and the original people don't, and if there's no mechanism for follow-up, then it could be easy for somebody to just say, well, you know. And then once the builder sells the houses, the builder
out, right.
financially
In that case,
probably is
that's-
gone.
Well,
Yeah.
if Southern Maine Planning thinks it's good, I mean, they're really the experts in this stuff,
Yeah, that's a good point.
you know?
It's in their model,
Yeah,
so.
To use a bond instead of,
The three options.
The three
Letter of credit,
options.
Bond, and also the check and an escrow.
okay.
Um,
Well, that would be, it seems to me, if that would be probably the fairest way in a sense to put in three options. And then the builder or, you know, the applicant is gonna choose which one works for them better. I mean, conceivably, in some cases, somebody might want to put up cash because if they have extra cash, it's not costing them anything, right? I assume a bond and the other ones cost something, don't they? The applicant?
I would think so, right? Yeah, that's
So I
true.
mean, I know it depends on what the situation financial.
it's like an insurance policy. You're gonna pay a fee for
Pay.
having that,
Right,
yeah.
right, right.
But then again, you think about it, if you have to put up $500,000 cash and you're trying to get a project to go through, it might be easier to go get the insurance policy.
Right, in terms of
You know.
level of burden.
Yeah,
Yeah, and you write it off too,
yeah.
But
the
also,
cost of it.
interest rates have been historically low for the last couple of decades. Now
Yes.
they're back up high, so
So it makes a difference.
getting that cash costs a lot more upfront.
That's right.
That's true.
So that's something that's coming into play now.
Yeah,
But it sounds like the most conservative application would be to allow all three options, especially in Southern Maine. Although, didn't Mr. Feldman say they didn't get authorized or paid to update those or something? Is that the one? I'm thinking
That's
of?
right.
So they're sort of old.
Mm,
Just ask them again, do you still recommend this?
mm. Have we looked at it? I think you did research on that, Kevin, right?
And what'd you find, Kevin?
The local towns,
Dayton.
Waterboro and Dayton,
Mhm.
it's, I think I summed it up, it was bonds or letters of credit.
Either one.
And the higher developed areas, Scarborough, Westbrook, I think, was those plus cash.
Yeah.
Really, yeah.
And they all had, it was like 100 to 125%
Right.
versus 150.
50 is what we require.
Yeah. Mm.
Should we consider adjusting the percentage? My supposition is that it was 150, that was designated so that it would mitigate the town's exposure.
There's
So it
always,
could have a dampening effect on development
Right.
at the same time.
there's always a chance that the construction estimate is a low ball too.
Yes,
So you only fund 100%, but it's actually, the final cost would be more.
Right.
And then when they walk, then something doesn't get done.
Mhm.
So I think having a little cushion there is.
Okay.
right, yeah, especially these days with inflation, I mean, your initial
Yep.
estimate,
Yeah, because
6
some of
months
these things
later
can
can
drag
be
out for
a hell of a
years.
lot more,
It's even
yeah.
like-
Exactly.
Right.
Along those lines, Kevin, would you mind maybe putting together some language? Keep the 150% checking and escrow account option in there, but add the other two, and we'll add that to the agenda for discussion next time around. And if you were agreeable to that, we can send it to the town manager for consideration and also to the select board as well. And we're running it by town council.
Yeah, legal.
Okay. All right. Let's see what else we got here. We all have a copy of the letter that's going to town manager and the select board, I think CC on it. But about on plane,
yes.
the gentleman, Mr. Duderver, he's having an outdoor tasting, no deck, outside, and we said that was A-OK. Let me see. We all received in our packet a letter.
Yeah.
Is it the one in the envelope?
Let's see. From Ms. Leger.
I thought it was a bonus check.
I thought so. It's nice of it there.
Apparently not.
Cash.
No. Where it kind of left it is the dock in question does not touch the shoreline and therefore is not within the code enforcement officer's jurisdiction. It's not permanent, so it's not within the State Department of Environmental Protection's jurisdiction. But aside from the dock, it seems like there's other issues here. So they're trying to absorb this on the fly. I suggest that we read this and also maybe send a copy of this to the town manager.
You gotta love the ponds.
And I just, this is a right of way, right?
Yeah, right away.
He does not own, no owns the right of way.
No,
So
Many people share it.
people share it
it's
and,
within the deeds as well.
huh?
Yeah, I think it's the access.
Unless,
is in the
access,
deeds.
the
Yeah.
access would be in the deeds, but I don't think they have, there's no language in there that, in the deed that says. They have access to it. that
They all
don't.
have deeded,
Access
every
to it.
property that was part of Roberts had, and I think it's 68 of them,
Hmm.
all have deeded access to any one of the 3 or 4 right-of-ways. So, but they all have, it doesn't say which one,
Right,
they all have access.
it's access to the water.
Right,
for those people who
and-
live on it.
just perception-wise. If the dock doesn't touch the land, it's out of our hands. And the state's not gonna do anything with it. And by their definition, if it doesn't touch the land, they can technically put it in front of your house or your house, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Hmm. This touches the land.
Yeah, I think if you look at cantilevers over, it's not physically touching.
Well, it's unfortunate.
And it's permanent. Look at, it's not.
Well, I know.
No, he takes
It's
that out.
removable, isn't it?
It takes it out.
I mean, it's unfortunate that they can't reach some kind of an agreement.
Right,
I mean, and now it looks like it's getting legal. So it sounds like we're gonna end up having to try to get the town council involved or something because,
Well, if it doesn't fall under the town's purview, why take the time to go to the town council? It's
Well,
not, it's,
the only reason for that is to just verify that, I mean, you basically have a situation where one person says, the rules allow me to do this, so I'm going to do this. And then you have neighbors, hopefully they're nearby neighbors, not somebody across the pond or something, saying, hey, this individual is impinging on my right to use the access way because of the way the dock is. And by the way, apparently he puts his boat over here, which takes up more space, blah, 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 blah. So it's an internal dispute. And if the planning board doesn't have any jurisdiction over this because of state law or something, well, then our best bet would be to say, thank you very much. Go at it with your individual lawyers and sue each other. But,
I think that's already been to town council
oh boy.
in a couple of years ago,
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah.
maybe, again, I would suggest that we table this matter for now, put it on the agenda for the next meeting. I'll make sure that a copy of this goes to the town manager, making reference to our understanding that there was a previous ruling on the part of the town council on this. And
Your code enforcement said it was, I mean, the code enforcement officer said it was illegal.
there was some cutting of trees. I think we had some
Trees,
documentation on that I think was brought up to the attention of those in that area. So-
Yeah, I was reading that on the cutting of trees. It's where he could back his truck into the right of way to unload. So it's not even on the water side, it's up on the roadside. But Julie, did the issue with docks, did we ever get anything official from town council on that? Or was there a request to town council to tell us which direction we should go? Do you remember?
No.
It sticks in my mind, a couple of years ago, that went to town council, but a couple of years ago.
was before my time.
Yeah,
It's not really a town issue. I did talk to Lindsay about it today, because the gentleman, not Kyle, but on the other side,
Right.
has called several times lately. And he called this afternoon, and they have a lawyer, and they want to talk to the town lawyer. And Lindsay's like, it's not really a town issue, it's kind of a civil issue between everybody out there.
Mhm.
He hasn't, they have the right of way to use the right of way.
Mhm.
And the dock is in the water, which is kind of a DEP thing, but
one of the things that I run into in the past, and this is the past 30 years, ice fishing. They can come up and sit on my beach, do the ice fishing. There's nothing you can do about it.
They're on the water though, they're not on your land,
Correct, they're on the water,
right?
yes. But then again, if a dock is in the water and not on the land,
If it was a float, there's a difference between a dock and a float. A float is out in the water.
Mhm.
There's a separation between it and the land. And that you can pretty much put anywhere. A dock is attached to the land. I don't care, even if it's, the purpose of the dock is to get on in your boat
that's correct.
from the land.
But if you read the regulation, it says not touching above the high water mark.
All right, I want to see that. Is that in the?
It is, it says it's specific, because that's what the state looks at for where their control starts, is the high water mark, not the low water mark, the high water mark. I mean, we can do whatever we want. It's just an area, we've dealt with it, because you get your ice fisherman, and he says, oh, I'm cold, I need a fire. Oh, there's a wood dock, I got firewood, and there it goes. And the game wards will do nothing about it, because they have a right to be there,
Well, again, does Julie, Lindsay have a copy of this?
I didn't even open them.
Okay.
They were dropped off before the snowstorm. We were supposed to get them at the last meeting. I tucked them in the folders and left them.
Gotcha.
Pretty much forgot about them until the gentleman called this afternoon, and I said, oh, yes, they're going out today. So you are the first to see them tonight.
Again, I would suggest that a copy of this be given to Lindsay. Once again, with the understanding that this has been, to the best of our knowledge, addressed by town council before. And it may be a situation where town council contacts their council to explain the jurisdictional limitations. You know.
It's a no-win situation.
Yeah.
Jeez.
It's gonna be a mess.
But, harkening back to what you were saying, Tom, that it seems like it's an issue between property owners in the same general vicinity.
Yeah,
Right.
if it's not clear in the ordinance, and if it's not clear that the planning board has a jurisdiction, then it seems like almost the smartest thing to do is to keep our nose out of it. And at least ensure that the town council is informed, and then see what action should be taken there, rather than, because if we try to get in there and muddy the water up, it's gonna, so to speak, muddy the dock up, it'll just make a mess here. I don't know, I guess I'm getting punchy.
So,
And it's early, Dawn.
yeah.
I
It's
know,
still
I know.
light out.
I'm liking this.
I am too. 4 o'clock, here we go.
So how about a motion to send a copy of this communication to the town manager?
I make a motion that the planning board send a copy of this information to the town manager, requesting that she review it, and if necessary, check with the town council
That's good.
for
Just keep it simple, say, ask for guidance.
guidance. I like that. I like that.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second it. Okay.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you very much, Will.
I'll still Bill's letter, he'll put it back in his phone.
I might not.
Okay.
I'll scan it in and
I'm
send you.
going to get a new email tomorrow.
I hope so. Oh, yes. Discussing FOA, I believe with Joe one day, the
Mhm.
FOA request.
Mhm.
I know that you've all discussed about getting a town email. I don't think it's that expensive for them to happen, but there's been pushback for you all to get it. It might be a good idea for you all to get a separate email.
I'm just going to get a Gmail account.
Yeah, just
Set it up.
open like a Gmail account. Just because you're opening your personal emails up to
Yeah.
scrutiny.
Yeah.
Yeah. Something like says planning board,
Yeah.
alternate number 1. The only alternate.
The only alternate at this point. It saves hassle and aggravation and, if you really want people looking into your private email, I talked to Joe about it with, when we couldn't get the computer to work and I was recording the sound with my phone, trying to do the minutes, all those questions. And I thought about posting, but it kept linking to my personal account. And I said, no, I'm not gonna do that.
Right.
Nobody needs access to my personal account. It's no longer even available on my phone. I deleted it.
The hackers already have it.
I'm sure they do,
Yeah.
but I don't have it anymore. I just wanted to be able to type all the questions and answers out.
Right.
But
So
it's,
set up individual Gmail accounts?
That's my
So- so planning-
suggestion.
That's what I'm going to
Okay.
just do.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Anything else?
unless you're Don who's leaving us.
Yeah, can I read something here, please?
Fire away.
Okay, this is, I sent a letter to the town manager and the select board on April 1st, and basically says, it's been my privilege to serve as a member of the Lyman Planning Board since November 2008. My current appointment ends in 2024. Do not desire to be appointed to another term. I believe it is time for me to step aside so that another town resident may serve on the planning board. And have as much fun as I've had. It is my sincere hope that the planning board will continue to evaluate applications in a fair and impartial manner in accordance with the Lyman zoning ordinances that are approved by the town voters. I said also, please appoint another planning board member as liaison with the ordinance review committee. But I'm going to stay on the ordinance review committee until the end of June, but just wanted to mention in case anyone is interested in doing that. I know Joe has gone to a lot of the meetings, but he hasn't been appointed as quote a liaison. So I'm a non-voting member of the ordinance review committee. And that leads me into one other quick thing. The ordinance review committee, the requirements now are to have 75 signatures. They have 4 items ready to go. This is for our many people who are watching on YouTube, to the November election this year. And they just quickly, one of them does away with contract zoning. That's one article. Another article talks about accessory dwelling units and changes some rules there. And then the third one mirrors that in the shoreline zoning, because shoreline zoning ordinance is separate. And then the fourth one is a floodplain management ordinance, which is required because there's new digital flood insurance maps out from, I guess it must be FEMA. My understanding is that York County was a little slow adopting these not because of Lyman, but because of other towns. Maybe they didn't like how far they go. But the bottom line is if this ordinance is not put into effect by the town, anybody living on a pond that has flood insurance or is required to have flood insurance by their mortgage would be out of luck. So I think the select board is going to put an emergency ordinance in for the flood insurance one. And these 4 items will be on presumably will be on the ballot in November. That's assuming, number one, the ordinance review committee can get 75 signatures. And by the way, afterwards, I will be happy to give you my sheet here if you want to sign that. I'm collecting some signatures. I'm sure they'll get their 75. I don't think that'll be an issue. The second part is, we'll see how this plays out with the new charter. If the select board wants to, I'm going to use this word nicely, adjust or do something else with the things. There's an issue in my mind, the way the charter is written. If the ordinance review committee goes through all this process and does the 3 hearings, and there's a lot of other requirements in the new charter, whether the select board can then just say, we don't want to put it on the ballot or not. That could be a possible. I don't think that's going to happen, but there is, in my mind, some ambiguity there. So we'll see how this plays out. But these are the 4 items they finished so far, and that's all we're going to see for presumably 2 more years, unless an interpretation or modification of the charter comes to pass, because it says right now it's a general election. So I don't want to burden the point, but anyhow, that's where the ordinance review committee is. And if someone else wants to go on and take over as a liaison, then I would suggest talk to the town manager or something, and put an application in or do whatever. I put an application in myself, but whatever you want to do. So I just want to let you know about it plenty of time.
As a liaison, are you required to get 75 signatures?
Me?
Yes.
No. I'm helping.
You're helping.
And I got about 20 of you guys. I hope the rest of you get off your butts. Continue to work hard to get the rest. But no, I'm doing more of my share. But I got to say one thing too. I don't want to take all your time, but I fought the 75 signature requirement when I was on the charter commission, because I thought it was excessive. But originally it was 125. We got it down to 75. But I've got to say, it's hard to say this, but I will say that going around talking to my neighbors to get them to sign the sheet here required me to explain these to the neighbors, quickly and get signatures. So that part is probably good. And if you go to different parts of the town, as this presumably the other members are doing the same thing, it does bring more awareness to changes, which is a good thing. And the flip side is that it makes it more difficult to change ordinances. And as I think you all know here, my theory has always been, if you have a problem with the ordinance, change it, make it better.
As soon as
But
possible.
now it's more difficult, so we have to work on it more. So anyway, if you want to take a look and sign this, fine. If you don't, fine. But this is just to get on the ballot, and there will be 4 separate questions. But the way this is written, one signature says, okay, I want these 4 to go on the ballot, if I'm explaining properly.
Oh, one signature for all four.
Well, to go on the ballot.
Right,
But there'll be four separate articles.
right,
Otherwise, you'd have four sets of, which is silly,
yeah.
I think.
Well, it's kind of, what, I mean, how can people sign, maybe they agree with one out of the four, or three out of the four?
Well, remember, as I
So
told,
it's like
this just
all or
puts it on the
nothing.
ballot. This
Right.
doesn't require you to vote for it or
Right.
against it.
But just to get
Or
it on
vote
the
on
ballot. Right.
Yeah, to get it on the ballot.
Right.
I mean, they talked about doing four separate ones, and I think they thought it was just unwieldy.
Yeah,
Right, you know.
yeah, it doesn't make sense.
But anyhow, but it's not a bad idea to get more signatures, and we'll see how this plays out. But it's sort of cumbersome, because there's like 3 public hearings now, as I remember, required, so we'll see how it plays out. It may be too cumbersome. Anyway, thank you. I didn't want to take all your time. Thank you.
And it's good information.
And Don, thank you for all your years of service on the
Yes.
board.
I try to stay awake mostly.
What are you gonna do with your time?
Oh, I'm just
Yeah.
kidding. My wife's already got some.
He's gonna clean
You're gonna
tree
start going on
branches out of his yard.
vacations.
No, I do what? I'm getting too old to go on vacation. I'll have to get the wheelchair.
Well, I see a lot of people with wheelchairs on vacation.
Yeah, no. I don't want to do that. That's too much. Thank you. I think,
Just to back up a little bit, like to get a motion and a vote on setting the agenda for the next meeting. Again, we've got the point thing, the suggested changes to the performance guarantee for subdivisions on the agenda. Again, in the church. Anything else? Motion to accept the proposed agenda.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
any further discussion? All those in favor?
aye.
So move on to the minutes. And we've got minutes for the public hearing on the 20th of March. And we also have the minutes for the planning board regular meeting on the 20th of March. Let's address the public hearing minutes first. Everyone, as Rod first, happy? Motion to accept? As written.
I move to accept the minutes as written.
Second? Second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
We'll get that circulated in just a moment. And the minutes for the regular planning board meeting on the 20th of March. Any alterations there?
It was a long meeting.
I know.
Thank you, Julie.
It was a long one to type, Julie.
It was a lot.
Quite involved.
It was a lot of typing. It
Yes,
was-
absolutely.
Thank God that, on the YouTube, you can do the C translation, did a lot of copy and pasting.
That's great.
Thank goodness for the snowstorm, which gave me 2 extra weeks. Thank goodness for Joe, who came and helped with the nods last Thursday. Thank you all for doing the nods.
Yeah, it was good.
Okay with the minutes?
Mhm.
A motion, please?
I move that we accept the minutes on the meeting of March 20th, 2024.
Second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, start sending these guys and pass them around. Okay. regular meeting minutes, Bill and Kevin are on a separate sheet there. Let's see, old business, anything from Harper? Nothing there. And just to let folks know, we haven't forgotten about the other situations. Maxon's over at Cottage Road, Army Corps. Mr. Martino and his
No.
huts
No.
on Brock. The Bridgmans, with respect to their removal of the dock itself on Barker's Pond, they,
They were removing the deck and making a dock supposedly because they could get a permit from the CEO for a dock, but the deck had to go.
Right.
Haven't seen it.
okay. Let's see. Heard nothing, literally, about the gravel pit, grinding down at Du Bois, and so,
No news.
no news.
No,
No news is good news there.
finally.
Bill Stewart called last week. He said, I told him that supposedly the gravel pit owners said they had been in touch with he or Danny. He said he doesn't recall talking to them. But he's very curious as to what's going on with all the clearing, and so I said I would just bring it up to you that
Has code enforcement been down there?
Okay.
Well, that would be the first step, right? Code enforcement would go down there to see why they, if they're clearing,
Mhm.
do they have a
I
permit?
think we have some documentation that Brenda was down
she was down there last fall, wasn't it?
there.
And there was a DEP,
January,
DEP because of the pond.
yeah,
Is that what? I
there were,
sent it to you.
yeah.
There was one or two wells were checked.
mhm.
Hmm.
Well, it seems maybe contacting Darren Shaw. I think he was the person I spoke to before, who, throughout my recollection, said that he had spoken with Mr. Stewart. Maybe encourage them to reconnect and maybe get some clarification on that. What do you think of?
But Bill said he was still in Florida, so maybe he and Danny haven't connected on who's talked to who.
Okay. Okay. I think I read like the name correctly, was it Darren Shaw?
I believe so.
Yeah, okay. All right, and Mr. Potts, I think, made the application for home occupation business.
He did, and I reached out to him. He calls every week. I reached out to him last week. I emailed him some information that was needed to go with his application. And I haven't heard back. I expect his phone call any day now.
All right,
I'm sorry, what was that for, please?
that was the,
The home delivery of medical
Medical marijuana.
marijuana.
Yeah, but he's never put an application in, has he?
He actually did. He filled out a home occupation for medical marijuana, something, I don't know, it's a one-sheet thing.
Yeah,
But a lot of it doesn't have to do with what he wants to do. So without a CEO, he had to actually sit down with him and go over it. We're kind of trying to figure it out, so.
Hmm.
And he's looked at the ordinance, has he? Have you directed him to the ordinance?
Yeah. Yeah, we're working, I've asked for some more information that's required according to that application, and I'm waiting to hear back.
Okay.
I did take a measurement on Google Earth. I believe he's out of the show.
it's outside of it.
He's
I was
outside of it?
asking about that.
Yeah.
Okay,
He thought he was.
Good.
thanks, that's good. That's what I have for old business. Anything else from anybody? Okay. That leaves only one thing.
I make a motion that the planning board adjourn.
I'll second that.
So- Bill finally tried to.
I don't suppose there's any discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much, everybody. Yeah, I'll call Mr. Shaw and also put together a response to Mr.
There
France.
you go. I can't let it.
Okay, let me make sure I've got everything back to you.
Oh, thank you.
Here's a copy. We need to